Alright guys, I'm a bit new to this whole race review thing, but I figured we're going to give it a shot and start with something simple. We're at Miami for round 2 of Wagon Racing League Division 1. Not my greatest qualifying. I forgot to stream the whole thing, so I don't have the VOD to actually go back and look at it, but this should do well enough just for me to try this out and see if I actually like doing these kind of things. But just kind of looking at the start here, not the greatest qualifying in the entire world. I think we were like 4/10 off of pole. Could have had a better qualifying for sure. Improved on the last lap, but lost too much time in sector 1. I think I had like a 3/10 improvement if I didn't lose 2/10 in sector 1 by itself. So we're starting in 5th. As far as I can remember, everybody in the top 10 was on mediums to start. So we'll just kind of let things run its course here. But 5 red lights come on. They go out, and we get a pretty good launch off the line. You can see P1 and P2 going at it pretty tough. Jeffy in the Alpine gets a nasty, snap there, and we just get, unfortunately, pushed out a bit wide after having to check up. So we drop down into 7th place. Now, at this point, I'm just trying to keep my nose clean, really, and avoid damage. Really don't want to pick up front wing, any sort of front wing damage. And I'm just trying to kind of not keep falling back. Right? So once you start kind of falling back a little bit, it can be really easy to just lose your head and start, losing a ton of positions, and you just want to try and avoid that as much as possible. So. I wish there was a way for me to show you my battery level, but I guess you'll have to just look at the bottom of the screen. But yeah, going through this part of the lap, the guys in front are battling a little bit, so we're just kind of, sitting back, biding our time, trying not to make any mistakes. You'll kind of see throughout this entire first stint that, unfortunately, we were just kind of stuck behind a bunch of slower cars in front of us in a bit of a DRS train. The leaders are battling really hard, as you can see from the top. Nova and Jeffy are just going at it like crazy. And so, because of that, a lot of people are just getting kind of backed up. And, because of the dirty air, we're just kind of at the mercy of, the people in front. And basically just sitting back and waiting for either the Alpine in front to make a mistake or, for the DRS train to break up. And so that kind of continues this way for, some time. There's not really a whole lot, it's not super crazy. But as you can see from me coming into the pits right there, on this lap, there's actually a safety car that ends up coming out. And I'm not sure exactly what happened. But you can see right here, everybody lifts off the throttle, and then everybody dives into the pits. Nova Stappen in the Haas actually stays out on the hards, or on his, I believe it's the mediums. His teammate does the same thing, which you'll see later really goes poorly for him, and actually benefits us really well. But coming out of the pits in 7th place, we're just trying to get caught up to the safety car and get our tires warmed up. So I'll spare you the details of that. We can go back and look at the safety car restart. Just fast forward to this lap. In the future, I'll try and I'll make sure that I actually have a switch screen so you guys can actually see what my POV looks like instead of having to watch in the really subpar mode. But yeah, at this point we're pretty much on a two-stop strategy. We're gonna take the free pit stop and go onto the hard tires, and then we took the harder harder sets of tires, so we'll be able to take these tires to about lap 18, lap 19, and then we'll pit for another set of hards, and we'll just go to the end. And hopefully, the people who stayed out in front, Rusted Nova and Nova in the Haas, will hopefully jump them and then move up to P5, and then whatever else we can get on track. On the restart here, we just kind of get caught with our pants down a little bit. I think me and Ironsides just weren't, I guess, ready for them to go so quickly, or just, I think Nova in the front just timed it really, really well. But now we're kind of caught with our pants down. You know, we're having to really, you know, kind of like focus up here to get back within DRS. Otherwise, you know, we're going to get, you know, just completely dropped. And you can see, you know, Ironside's slowly starting to kind of bring the gap down as we go to the S's here with that, with a little bit, just a little bit of clean air. Thankfully, the guys in front, you can see, are battling quite a bit. And so that should, you know, help us with them slowing down and whatnot. From behind, we actually have an Alpine. I wish I could. I don't know how to revert the camera back to, but you can see that we have an Alpine behind us, and that kind of becomes a important factor in just a little bit. We actually, you know, we're looking forward here, but you know, to try and like make up a position on Ironsides here, but we actually end up making a huge mistake later in this part of the race, and we actually end up losing a position to the Alpine. I'll see if I can fast forward to the point where we do. I believe it is right here. Yeah. So we'll go back and look at what happened. So basically, coming into this last corner here, you know, I have a little bit of an overspeed, and I think about a move, but unfortunately, I just get way too far over on this inside curve, and that just leaves me naked and afraid pretty much to this Alpine, which comes around my outside. I have the battery to try and fight it, but you know, I just realized that the more time that we spend fighting here, it's just not good for us. But he hangs it around the outside, I get kind of stuck on the curve. He has a huge snap, which causes me to check up from how close I was, and then that's just, you know, that's just the way that it's going to be, unfortunately. So just have to not lose your head, you know, just, you know, realize that he's on the mediums. He has a little bit of an advantage at this point, but the good news is that it's all going to come back to us. And very quickly, too, obviously, tire wear at Miami is pretty high. So, you know, we're not super worried. Maybe he can help us kind of get past Ironside's ahead. So, you know, we're just kind of going to sit back, you know, charge our battery, save our tires a little bit, and let these guys in front battle with each other, and then maybe we'll be able to actually pick up the pieces a little bit. As you can see, Ironside's already going deep into the big braking zone in the middle part of the lap here. Now they're going side by side through like the Mickey Mouse section of the lap. Very scary, where now Ted Cruz, you know, he cuts the chicane, which is crazy, but he makes it through on Ironside, which is actually not great for us. But if he can pull ahead, and you can see that he actually lost DRS to Nova in front, but Nova's on super old tires, so you know, it's kind of like this crazy thing. We have a super massive overspeed, and we get alongside, but once again we're just, you know, stuck on the curve, and we can't really get the move done. You know, now we're you know, side by side going to the first, you know, going into turn one, and you know, we just don't have the inside line. We're having to drive too far of a distance, and so we just have to settle for the fact that we can't do it. All the while, the Aston Martin behind is just licking his chops the entire time, just saying, you know, if you make a single mistake, I'm gonna come through and just come send you down to P8. So we're just, you know, at this point, we're just trying to recharge some battery here, because with Maximo and the Aston behind, you know, we're just pretty much hanging out to dry. We have quite a bit of battery here, thankfully, and I believe my wings were actually quite low. As you can see, I believe he's deploying here, but he just does not have the wings to really send a move here, and so, you know, we end up keeping the position, thankfully. But as you can see in front, you know, Rusted Nova with the old hard tires, you know, has slowed down Ted Cruz in the Alpine so much that the train is finally actually broken, and so you'll kind of see here as we get, you know, further and further along in the stint, that I actually end up getting, you know, we're finally able to start moving forward instead of just sitting in a DRS train, you know, losing positions after stupid mistakes and things like that. So you'll see as kind of things go on that we actually end up, and right here, this is a huge mistake by me. I think I underestimated just how slow the old hard tire runner was going to be, and so, you know, I feel like I brake a little bit too late, and I end up having to just dive to the inside to try and, you know, avoid destroying the Ferrari in front of me. And I just get stuck on this curve again, of course, and, you know, now I tapped the Ferrari. Thankfully, neither of us got any damage, but now I'm really in trouble, you know, from behind with this Aston Martin, and, you know, just basically for a moment was like basically at his mercy. Thankfully, we were able to keep the position there, even though realistically, like that was just a huge mistake that could have even cost us a race. And so it was pretty bad. But I guess we can fast forward a little bit through this lap. It's just pretty standard stuff. You know, we're just stuck in dirty air behind, trying to recharge our battery a little bit. We do end up getting past the rusted Nova on the old hards later in this lap. I believe it's through here. He's not going to have DRS to the car in front, and so, or I guess that's right here. He gets a little bit wide, and these guys are going side by side. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can, you know, get both of them in one corner. Unfortunately, not. But we still move up, thankfully, right before the, you know, probably the lap where the older tires are going to really slow us down. And so we're able to stay with Ironsides, who has lost DRS to Ted Cruz in front. And so now Ironsides, you know, while we've been kind of stuck behind him and at his mercy pretty much the entire part of the race, not only are we going to have a chance now to actually go and properly attack him, but behind, Rusted Nova is going to hold up Maximo just a little bit, right? Not too significantly much, right? He hasn't dropped back by over a second or anything like that. But now, you know, with Maximo having to kind of battle with Nova here, and he's actually not gaining too terribly much as far as I can see on the timing screen. But we actually get a huge advantage from this because now we have a chance of actually breaking up the DRS train and making it to where it's just me and Ironsides together in our own little, you know, two-way battle. And so going through the Mickey Mouse part of the lap, Maximo finally, you know, gets past Rusted, but by this point, look at how much time he's lost going side by side to that part of the lap. So now it's just me and Ironsides, kind of not exactly in no man's land, you know, 8/10 off of being back into, you know, this or at least catching back up to Ted Cruz. You know, we have a huge overspeed. Here we go. You know, send a little bit of a move on the inside. Ironsides, you know, he leaves us space. We use a little bit of rubbing there, but you know, nothing, no foul play, nothing like that. But unfortunately, he has the inside line, so he just drives less distance, and then we have nothing that we can do there. And so, you know, we just have to sit back and bide our time a little bit. And unfortunately, my battling, I guess my little bit of my impatience, you know, is now Maximo behind is now absolutely being invited to come back through, and I believe we pick up a track limits there as well. Thankfully, we only had one, and that was the only one this race. But as you can see, you know, we get a pretty bad run through, I believe this is turn 10, and now, you know, Maximo's right back in this DRS train, so the advantage that we got from the older tire traffic is just gone. But thankfully, we decided to put, you know, the pedal to the metal, use, you know, a lot of battery against Ironsides, and take the position and say, you know, okay, Ironsides, you know, Maximo's back in the DRS train. You can go have fun with him. I'm gonna go, you know, try and run away here. And so we'll see if we can keep the position on the DRS straight here, you know, after you know, using a lot of battery. But thankfully, we get a much better run through that slow section, you know, Mickey Mouse part of the lap. And now Ironsides is, you know, 7/10 back, and I believe he is running, you know, a little bit higher wings than me, because you can see, you know, my battery is pretty much turned off, and he's not exactly gaining very much time on me. And so now with the clean air in front and Ted Cruz just up the road, you know, we're looking to you know, link up these DRS trains. And so on the next lap, Ted Cruz actually goes into the pit lane, which really, you know, doesn't help us very much, because obviously now, and he was on the mediums, and so now, you know, we're once again the leader of this DRS train. But Maximo gets dropped by Ironsides on the previous lap, which is really good for us. So things kind of just continue at this pace for a while. Dulac comes into the pits on lap 18. Lap 19, we decide to stay out, and then as, you know, the end of lap 19 comes around, we go ahead and pit for our last, you know, pit stop. We get onto the hards. Was a little bit worried about some traffic on pit exit, but thankfully we're able to come out ahead of Rusted Nova, only 1 second behind, so that was pretty dangerous. You know, if we got caught in that three-way battle between Rusted Nova, Ironsides, and Dust, the result, you know, of this race might have been way different, just being stuck in, you know, another dirty air DRS train. And so, you know, we're just trying to kind of bring the tires up to temperature, you know, get things fired up and go chase down, you know, Rockstar. And Nova is, you know, just on the precipice of getting DRS there, but thankfully we're able to keep him out. And so you can see, so you can see that We just, are slowly kind of like starting to chip away at the gap a little bit here. Dulac, I believe, had front wing damage, so you're going to see that I catch him by a ridiculous margin this first part of the lap. But I believe he was missing almost his entire front right wing, and so you can see the delta just dropping as we come through here. Unfortunately, not enough so much that we get DRS, I believe, but. Actually, no, I think we are going to get DRS here. Get DRS and just close up to him, and hopefully, by the end of this lap, we can try and send a move on him. Unfortunately, we're way too far back for that right now. We just want to make sure that he doesn't hold us up too much through this middle part of the lap. With the wing damage, it can be an issue for us. So. We do have a nice buffer behind with Ironsides though, so we shouldn't be at too big of a risk so long as we can get this move done relatively quickly. Go a little bit deep there, unfortunately, which really just compromises our entire run through that part of the lap, and so now we're a little bit far back. But we have a lot of batteries saved up, and so we're going to try and see if we can get something done here. Really important for us to try and get past as fast as possible. So I'm just dumping everything and dive bombing to the inside, hoping that his front wing will really limit him. A little bit of rubbing once again, but it seems like that was kind of like the way to do it. Unfortunately, he has that front wing damage, and so has much more straight line speed, and he's actually able to keep the position. And so now we're just kind of stuck behind him going through this part of the lap. But going through this right-hander, he really, with that front wing damage, he doesn't have that much downforce as us. So we are actually able to sneak alongside, down to 6% battery, and a little bit of contact there, but nothing too ridiculously egregious in my opinion. We end up getting the position, and now we're right up with Nova Stappen here with DRS. So this could not have played out more perfectly for us. I'm super low on battery here, so I like to not try and send a move and just to sit back and recharge while I wait for my opportunity. It seemed like he was really slow for some reason, and I believe he had front wing damage from some sort of incident that he was in earlier, and so you can just see we're just getting a crazy run on him. He almost closes the door on us. I wasn't exactly too happy with that move, but he gets a little bit awkward into the wall there and just gives himself even more front wing damage. So he's gonna have to pit by the end of this lap. So we should just be able to get pretty much a slam dunk on him here. In hindsight, I probably should have charged my battery, but my thought was maybe we can drop Dulac if we do that. Kind of noticing a little bit of lag there. It was kind of scary for a second, but unfortunately I kind of turn in on Nova. Thankfully, once again no damage, but not the cleanest of moves for us this race, but thankfully nothing truly like terrible or despicable really. So now we're just kind of in no man's land a little bit here with Dulac behind, but you're gonna see that he just gets dropped instantly through this build, this first part of the lap. Being in the dirty air and front wing damage, he just doesn't have a chance. And so we inherit a position from. No, we don't. Sorry. These guys in front, the top three are battling, and so we're actually, or the top two are battling. Jeffy's just kind of run away with things a little bit here. But if they continue to battle like they are, that'll really kind of bring us back into things. So we kind of continue on through the lap here. You can just kind of see the gap starting to come down. It was at 3 seconds at the beginning of the lap. Now we're down to 2.5. Now we're down to almost, I'm almost within a second. Unfortunately, another safety car comes out, and I have no idea what these guys are doing in front of the safety car. They traded positions like 3 times under the safety car. I don't know what was going on, but at this point, Rockstar actually gets a 3-second penalty, and so now a podium is on for us, after being stuck in that DRS train for half the race. And so, and once again, this is just I don't even know what's going on here. I'm guessing Rockstar was thinking about pitting, but just some really odd shenanigans, on this lap. But we're just trying to keep the hard tires warm. We're only going to get about 3 laps of racing. So Ted Cruz is actually on his 2nd warning, and so I was thinking that if I can try and get past Rockstar as soon as possible and put Ted Cruz under some pressure, you might make a mistake, and we might just inherit P2 just off of staying behind these guys and just letting them have their way with each other, right? I really didn't think that with these guys in front that I was going to have a chance of catching Jeffy. I think that we were pretty relatively close on pace, but unfortunately just wasn't in the cards today. If we had qualified better, I think that we would have had an opportunity. But you know, there's no point in dawdling on what could have been. I just we're looking to really just maximize the result here, especially after the win last week in Bahrain. And so on the restart here, we actually get a incredibly good restart. We basically time it almost perfectly to get around these guys. But unfortunately, these guys are so slow. I have to check up like crazy going into turn one, and that just invites the kick to go back through. These guys start getting squirrely with each other. I'm trying to go through again, but then he covers me off. I'm hanging it around the outside a little bit, but as we've seen throughout this race so far, when you're on the outside, you end up having to drive more distance. But thankfully, finally, at one point where I'm on the outside going into a corner, I'm actually able to keep it together a little bit. Struggling quite a bit through the S's here, and that actually invites Rockstar to come down the inside into this corner. You can see the delta. He's only half a hundredth, and you can see he's right on my rear end. Going down this straight here, thankfully, we have the battery and we have the wings to actually be able to defend from this. If his wings were just a little bit lower than ours, I think he actually would have gotten the position back. We go have a massive bout of understeer going into the corner, and so that just works under immense amounts of pressure from Rockstar behind. And Jeffy, has just run away. I mean, 3 seconds in one lap is just incredible. I mean, props to him. That was just a very well executed safety car restart. Thankfully, the Dirty Air does us some work to that part of the lap. And we're closing in on the Alpine here, and we decide, maybe to send a little bit of a move through here. It was kind of a half-hearted move, unfortunately. We didn't really commit, and so now we're kind of alongside a little bit here, but you can see Rockstar, who's 4 tenths behind, now he's 2 tenths behind, and closing. And now we have another opportunity here, and we kind of like send a little bit of a half move. Not really being very committed with our overtakes, and that just continues to invite opportunity for people behind. Almost getting into the back of Ted Cruz, kind of like pushing him along, like, hey, hurry the fuck up, because now Rockstar is alongside going into this corner. Almost cuts my front wing off. It was very scary here. I thankfully backed out. But now Rockstar is back in front of me with the 3-second penalty, and so we're really trying to get past him so that way we can have an opportunity on Ted Cruz here. And so we just kind of screwed over our own race here with only 1.5 laps to go. And so and I'm completely out of battery on this straight here, trying to defend from Ironside's behind as well. And so now it's just a really dangerous situation here. Rockstar ends up actually getting in front of Ted Cruz as well. So his strategy obviously is to try and get in front and break the DRS and then run away. And it actually worked, pretty well for him. Unfortunately, I think he is out of battery, or just didn't have anything to really defend with here going into the last lap. And frankly, I just don't think that the pace was really there for him to run away with things. So just by battling, he really just invited the rest of the field to just kind of come through and say, oh, this guy's at 3 seconds, so we're just gonna gain 5 positions, or we're gonna just gain a position at the end if we can just stay with these guys in the DRS. So you can see on the left side from Rockstar, Rockstar is gonna lose up to like 5 or so positions, 4 or 5 positions here on the last lap. And so it's just like, okay, we're gonna have to look for some sort of opportunity here, try and charge up the pack through the first part of the lap, and just see if maybe there's some sort of desperate, attack that we can go on here at the end. A little bit squirrely through the S's, unfortunately, just really wasn't able to get that hooked up, and then we kind of fuck up the turn here as well, and so I'm just kind of accepting my fate a little bit here. But going down into this corner, it just seems like something in this final part of the lap just kind of like clicked together here. We just ended up getting really lucky, and so I'll kind of let you watch what happens here. You in mind Rockstar is 3 seconds, so we're actually fighting for P2 here. And so now coming onto the back straight, we're only 4/10 back from Ted Cruz, and he's actually out of battery. He's blinking. We still have another 20%, so we just have to absolutely dump everything and just send a move. Just be as brave on the brakes as possible. Try and get it stopped. Thankfully, we finally don't get on the inside curb, and we actually get the move done so much that we're actually able to go to the outside and cover him off to the line. And so because of the penalty for Rockstar, we actually end up inheriting P2. And so that's a pretty fantastic result for us. After getting 25 points from the first race of the season and now 18, and then our closest rivals, I believe Nova Stappen and Dulac DNFing and Nova Stappen only getting 7th. It's a huge benefit for us, and so now we're actually going to be able to carry a pretty significant point margin into the next race, which I believe is the next race, which is Spa. So it'll be an interesting race to see. But pretty good race. P5, or I think P5 up to P2. Definitely a hard fought one. Thankfully we made the right strategy calls on the 2 safety cars that came out. Some good battles. Could do a little bit better with confidence on moves and whatnot, but you can never be unhappy with a bit of a recovery after a pretty suboptimal qualifying. And so overall, I'm pretty happy with the result. And so I'm looking forward to Spa next week, and I'll do another race recap for that one.